So the replays are the membership exclusive, right?
Yes.
So should I post here the like any I think any resources now? I think I would rather post it in the membership one. So
Yeah,
replays and resources.
that's
Yeah.
fine.
Cool.
All right, we're going live in three, two, one, now.
Just
All right, we got some people joining. Thank you, everyone. We'll just give it a second to get everyone in here. Let me move my screen around. How you doing today, Cersei?
I'm doing good actually. I did a day trip to Phuket yesterday, and we just landed today this morning. So I haven't had any sleep actually. So can't wait to sleep.
What? How far is it?
It's only like an hour and a half, like an hour and 20 minutes away. So
Oh, that's not bad at all.
yeah, it's not bad. Like it's actually fun. The Bangkok traffic is definitely takes longer than the flight sometimes. But yeah, that's why
That's
we took
crazy.
mornings. Yeah.
Cool. We got some people in here already. All right. Go ahead and drop in the chat where you are from. So I will put mine in. I'm in Lakewood, Ohio. Today we are going to be learning about Claude, and we're going to be talking kind of through the different components of Claude. I'm actually running some stuff in Claude right now, which is pretty cool. And I know Cersei is as well. So we're going to go through the different parts of Claude from chat to cowork to code. We're going to talk about the different component level stuff regarding skills, MCPs, plugins, how to models, things like that. Claude design is a huge one. So we're really going to cover kind of the basics and fundamentals of it. I know, Cersei, you're a pretty big power user of Claude. How did you get into Claude, and why did you pick it over ChatGPT?
I initially started with ChatGPT, honestly, and I got into Claude because of this thing called MCPs, and I think that was a game changer when it comes to using AI in general. So I use Claude for that, and ever since I haven't touched any other AI models out there. I think it's one of the best for sure. But yeah, I started with ChatGPT and I
What
just
did you
stumbled upon.
what did you notice was different with Claude? Like, I know that it had better like integrations and stuff like that, but what specifically about Claude like really made a difference?
For me, I see Claude as more of like an AI that actually thinks rather than just like constantly says yes, like a yes man to you. Because like when it comes to a ChatGPT, it can easily hallucinate. Like it just like agrees to every single thing that you say, even though it's wrong. But Claude actually goes into like a deep thinking and research, and is like, I like how it just contradicts stuff and slaps me in the face with reality.
Yeah, that is true. It's really like, isn't it interesting how the AI actually corrects you? It's like, you can't do that. Like, that's not okay. Or to answer Peter's question, it's not bad to start off with ChatGPT at all. Claude is just kind of an easier interface, in my opinion, and not just an easier interface, but overall, it's a little bit of a more realistic tool for production work, whereas ChatGPT definitely has its place. Like, I use it for deep research and for image
Yeah,
generation, because Claude can't do image generation the same way. But
yeah,
the Claude for coding, chat, and cowork is really, really
oh,
powerful.
yeah,
So Peter asked, is Claude more capable to do much more than ChatGPT? Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
uh,
Yes, 100%.
So what about Claude specifically, Cersei, do you think is better than ChatGPT? I know you mentioned that it's, better at thinking and reasoning and stuff like that, but what features specifically are better in Claude?
Definitely integrations. Because, like, fun fact, it was actually like you hear a lot of things called APIs, MCPs. before we dive deep into like integrations and connections, I want to give you guys more of a context about like how each app communicates, or even us searching the web works. So how you usually, for example, you open up Messenger, right, or Facebook, and if you want to post something, it's sending through an API throughout the web. So think of an API as a waiter. It's you have a request and you want to deliver something, so that's an API request. Now think about it's like really good for reoccurring and like just like one off similar, like just same calls every time. But when we're talking about AI agents, and let's say I have one task that I want to do, and the next time I want to do a different task, so it's going to be kind of like a pain in the ass to connect that one API every single time. So what an MCP does, which Claude really kind of like founded, or Anthropic founded, is like it's a protocol which lets your agent, you basically give it your integration, or let's say your API keys. You give it, it's your access to any apps. For example, you give it access to your Slack, and instead of putting every single command yourself, it the model, like the AI, just does that for you. So that was the reason why I got into Claude, because I was using N8N manually for automations. I was using like really, JSON webhooks manually every single time I need to call something. And when I saw and read that Anthropic does that, it was kind of like life altering, not really life altering, but just like when it comes to work wise, it made me so much more productive. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, the one of the things that, people sleep on is Claude Cowork. I was
Yeah.
talking to Bridget Bartlett and a couple other people about, you have chat, right? So let me actually share my screen and kind of show what the different interfaces look like. And we
I
can
agree
go
with
over.
Charlie. I do think Claude is Apple and ChatGPT is like Android for me as well. And is code from Claude much more precise and accurate? Yeah, yes, 100%. Claude is more accurate than ChatGPT, what I noticed. Even through their like APIs, because there's different ways for you to use like their models. There's this called console, where you can integrate kind of like the model itself. That's why, for example, Framer, um, I was helping my boyfriend create like a website on Framer, very short. He was using ChatGPT model, so it was like it's not even setting up correctly in the back end. When we switched to Open, like one shot prompt done. So that's kind of like the major difference that I see.
Yeah, and that's, so if you look at, we're on ChatGPT's chat function right now, right? So what it's doing is it's just, kind of
Claude.
doing some Claude, sorry, Claude's chat function right now, and it's kind of doing some basic stuff. So I'm going to ask it, what is better, Chat GPT or Claude for basic chat functions? So one of the things that people always talk about when they're in Claude or really any AI model is I don't know where to get started, right? So we were having this conversation with Peter last week, and he was saying, I don't really know where to get started with AI. I'm not, or a couple weeks ago, I don't really start with AI. I'm not sure what to do, things like that. And I think one of the most important things with any AI model, whether that's ChatGPT or Claude or anything, um, is you have to ask it what to do, right? You have to ask it questions. So, my typical, like when someone's like, "Oh, I want to learn how to use XYZ and Claude Code or Claude Cowork or something like that," but I don't know where to get started, is literally to open the AI and ask it, "Where do I get started?" So let's go ahead and open a new chat, and we're in chat right now, and I'm just going to ask it, "Where do I get started using you? What are some cool things you can do that most people don't think about or leverage to ask you for?"
I don't
And I'm
think you
gonna
want
go
to
ahead,
use it for that though.
yeah, I'm gonna
Maybe.
go ahead and set my model down to Opus. So
Yeah.
Fable, here's a really quick understanding, guys, of what models are. So the different models from Fable to Haiku are the different levels of complexity that the chat is able to do. I'm actually going to set this one to Sonnet because it probably doesn't need Fable or Opus.
Yeah.
These burn credits a lot faster. Like Chris just said, Haiku is the fastest, Sonnet's the most balanced, Opus is a little bit more complex, and Fable is literally like you're, you
God.
know, yeah, you're using God mode essentially, right? So I use Fable for all my design work, but I don't use Fable for very much. I love Sonnet 5. I think they did a
Mm.
really good job, and it actually has really, really amazing benchmarks for mathematics and coding. So we're going to go ahead and use Sonnet. Then you have some effort right here, and you have everything from low to max. And these are the different styles of thinking. The higher the effort, the longer it's going to take. And this is something that maybe, Joey, you want to check what your reasoning level is in the chat. I never turn off thinking mode. I always leave thinking mode on because I want it to logically reason through different things. So let's go ahead and send it a message and see what it says.
So when it comes to which models are the fastest, it really depends. Like complex models thinks and burns a lot through more tokens because it does require more thinking, right? It's kind of like asking someone 1 plus 1 and just like two, like everyone knows that. Another one is like, oh, it's what is like the pi of this, blah blah blah. So it really depends on the use case. So if you're using Fable or Opus for basic questions, you're burning a lot of tokens and you're wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you can see here that it actually went ahead and answered my question. So I asked it, what can you do? And it said, just talk to me like you would a sharp employee who has no context yet. Paste in what you're working on, ask direct questions, or hand me a messy problem and let me help you shape it. No special syntax required. This is absolutely correct. So it can do all of these different things. Now I'm going to ask it a little bit more of a pointed question. List in bullet points the top 100 things to use Claude for so that I can make a list and remember what to ask you for. And you can just tell it to make lists. You can tell it to make recipes, design. So it's going ahead and it's making me a list of 100 different points of stuff that it can do. And you can see all of these different options are what you can ask it to do. I mean, this is a massive, massive list of different tasks and things like that. What do you think, Cersei, are kind of like the top, like maybe the top 5 things that you use Claude for, top 3 things you use Claude for?
For me, it's usually brainstorming and planning a lot. I usually before like let's say building SaaS or any kind of like project I want or even like yeah any planning I love to do it with Claude. And then I actually like having like summaries, generating summaries and generating some sort of PDFs that I need to organize. And then there's also me wanting like I have a lot of things in Notion, so having that organized and updated, and yeah, emails, writing drafts, um, for research as well. So those are the top things that I do.
Yeah, same. I think that for me, like really, I have so many ideas that float around in my head, right? And like you said earlier, brainstorming is one of the biggest assets of because a lot of times, like everyone has great ideas, right? I know that there are tons of people in this chat who come up with, like Peter said, it's overwhelming, right? What Claude does is it actually helps you, especially in chat function, it helps you to distill that down and understand better about what you can do. And yes, Kelly's point of explain it to me like a first grader, absolutely. I usually say eighth grader because first grader is a little bit like it'll draw you pictures and stuff like that. But I don't find it as helpful. But explain it to me like an eighth grader is one of the best use cases for translating different technical documents and things like that. So this is a breakdown of what to use Claude for. So it's different purposes. So a delegation. You describe the goal and let Claude work it to the end versus a conversation. So one-off questions, brainstorming versus clear deliverables, things like that. This is, probably one of the best tools. Like this combined with this list, so this table combined with this list are absolute legendary assets. And I'm going to post these in the community so everyone has them. So chat produces something you can act on. Coworker acts on your behalf and hands you the result. That is a perfect statement. And Peter, yeah, I know that things are a little bit overwhelming, but one of the cool reasons that I love Claude is that it distills the stuff for you and it helps you to coherently organize your thoughts. So when you tell it, okay, I'm using Claude Code and Lovable and Claude Chat and Claude Cowork and ChatGPT and Kimi and all these different things, right? You tell it all the tools you're using, and then you ask it, now, how do I use these in the most efficient workflow? What do you use outside of Claude, Cersei? Is there any other AI tools that you use?
Yeah, I use Perplexity. I use like Comet specifically for my browser, which has built-in Perplexity for research, which I kind of like love when it comes to like just random search engine. Also Gemini.
Yeah.
Usually I would go for ChatGPT for just like random questions, but I find that Gemini is more kind of like one faster, and also it just makes sense. It's from Google. You know, if I want to search up something, I just go straight to Gemini. So it's Comet for browser, which is like Perplexity's browser that has its own built-in AI assistant and also no ads. I love watching YouTube with no ads. So
Yeah, it's
that
true.
and then Gemini for just random search engine, uh, or just like random, like really random questions and research, and then Claude.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So Peter asked, so Claude is Gen AI or is Gen AI different? So Gen AI refers to either it depends on what phrasing you're using, but it either refers to general, refers to generative.
Yeah.
They are kind of, Claude is all of those. Lovable is an application specific AI. Lovable is something where you're building a website or an application, whereas Claude, while it can do that, really excels more at the general components. So Kelly Bass said, Cersei saying Facebook is an API call helps me to frame the concept and massively reduces the fear and mental overload. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Uh, that, there's a lot of, I think a lot of the problem that people have in adopting AI systems and working with platforms like Claude or Lovable or things like that is really more of a fear of overwhelm,
Yeah.
or a fear from overwhelm than actual like complexity or challenges in using those platforms. Because the reality is like Claude and some of these other tools are designed for people that don't have experience in the field or technologies that they're working with. And that's the whole purpose behind these AIs, right? That's the whole purpose behind Claude, is that it is designed to augment, kind of like the Matrix, right? You remember, Cersei, have you seen the Matrix? I know you're young, but like um
Yeah.
so in the Matrix, they load up the Matrix and the first place they go is that white box room. And in the white box room, they are able to load up skills. Like it's kind of funny. Like the Matrix was, pretty before its time when it comes to AI, like at a mass scale and deployment. But they literally, if you watch the Matrix, and you kind of understand the parallels, it is identical to using Claude. You
Yeah.
load skills into the Matrix, you load tools, which are like weapons and things like that, into the Matrix. And then you are able to augment using AI functions that a human couldn't typically do. Um, and that's one of the things that I kind of took away. So, or at least from the movie. So this is talking about, if you're drafting a Facebook post or thinking through a pricing decision, let's chat. If you want something to pull every lead from a folder of high level exports, build a spreadsheet, and drop it back in that same folder without you touching it, that's Cowork. So this is a great example. So let's actually do that. Let's do a new task, and we're going to use Cowork really quick. And we're going to say, I want you to make a list in a Excel spreadsheet of every lead generation, lead scraping, visitor de-anonymization, so a hard word to spell, and other related services compared to Osprey, my company, which is HTTPS www.osprey.ai. And what we're going to do is I'm actually going to drop this into a folder, or I'm not going to drop it into a folder right now, but I would normally drop that into a folder. Really quick, here's some other controls. You have manually approve, automatically approve, and skip all approvals. If you're new to Claude and Cowork and Claude Code and things like that, do not run skip all approvals.
Yeah.
You need to be very, very intimate with your AI before you use skip all approvals. Like I trust my AI implicitly because its memory is capable of doing things that most people can't comprehend, and that's because I've been using it since Claude came out. So Kelly said, "Can you explain how Cursor fits into this model? Does it just harness Claude and GPT?" Yes, absolutely. One of the things about the Cursor harness is that it's actually an integrated development environment as well. So it's more than just a harness like Cowork or Chat or even Claude Code. It's a multi-model integrated development environment that can actually run code and do a lot of other things as well. And me personally, I prefer Cursor for development because it has a lot of advanced like multi-switching of models and stuff like that that Claude can't do. So you can see now, like in Cowork, it's doing some research for me, right? So you'll notice that when we were in chat, there was no right pane. This is, just the drop down for the title. But in Claude Cowork, I have all these different progress steps. I have outputs and I have context. So, Cersei, what do you use context for typically?
So context is usually, like you mentioned, there would be, when it comes to coworks, there you would set up projects in case to reference certain things. So it's kind of like giving it a memory layer so that that when you work on certain things for that project, you can reference. For example, this is what my agency is about, and I want you to write like a bit pitch deck for it,
Right.
or I want you to research some competitors with that, because like if you type in the chat, I want you to research competitors for my company without having the context of what your company is, then it's just gonna do blind work. But the thing is, when you do reach that, Claude will just ask you what is your company, and that's why it's like nice, like
Yeah.
better, less hallucination, less assumption, especially when you give it context.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And a lot of people right now are asking in the chat, what's better in terms of like Copilot, Gemini, Claude, Claude Code, or Codex. And Angela made the point that, and Kim made it too, that the tokens get eaten up way too much. So the
Yeah.
honest answer to that is it's probably because you're on the $20 plan. And I know that that's not what you want to hear, that you have to upgrade to the $200 plan. But the $20 plan is pretty slim on tokens. It's more meant for like testing and general chat purposes. But if you're going to be developing software or building large workflows or things like that, you absolutely need to be on the $200 max plan.
100%.
Um,
Or
like, and I
also
have, go ahead.
setting up the right environment, giving it the right context so it doesn't assume. Like when it comes to, let's say, really kind of like almost mid to experience, it's and you're using, like, let's say, an IDE or an environment, you're gonna make sure that your folders are pointing into the right context, pointing it to the right folders, and it's like it's just properly organized so that your agent, like your agent on your IDE, doesn't guess and scrape the entire project file every single time. So that's how I limit my usage tokens. But I'm in the also like 200 plan, so I rarely hit it um, when I got that set up.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Kelly asked, "What's an IDE?" So that an IDE is Cursor. It's an integrated development environment, and what that means is that uh, it doesn't just be a harness that uses AI in this case. An IDE is actually like before AI's time. It was designed to actually run the code and be able to do things like auto completions and code checks and development environments and all that. So that's exactly what an IDE is. It's designed to build software.
Yeah.
Claude Code is a light version of an IDE. It has some IDE features like a browser, a terminal and like file management and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
Cursor is really the true IDE, and I call it an AIDE because it's an AI integrated development environment. What were you going to say about IDEs, Cersei?
So kind of like my analogy for it, not really, like a very overview, what an IDE is. Kind of like just imagine yourself. It's kind of where you paint essentially, right? You have the view, you have your paint, you have your colors, and you paint there, and then you can view the paintings there before putting the paintings out in the world. So that's kind of like your environment to build things. So usually developers use it because again, for file management, there are files. For example, this kind of code base is for this, and this is like the database code base, this is the folder for that, this is the kind of like the markdown or the text explanation of what certain things does. And IDE is where you test that. And because like usually this is how kind of software development goes. You code it, and then you view the code or test the code in your local device. So people can't have access to it unless you deploy it online and you have a link. But in order for people, for example, just think about this, right? You created an app and you put it out there, and you want to want to update that app without disturbing the user. You have to test it out on your local device first. So an
Yep.
IDE is something that you test it out without, like, the same set of code, with you updating that code base, but no one can touch it besides you because it's stored in your computer. So just like a bunch of code in your
Right.
folder that you can run. So what that's what an IDE is essentially. And usually, like, very, very, very first people, they use it only in something called terminal. And an IDE is built like, yeah, integrated development environment. So it's everything's integrated. Your folder, your terminal, so you don't have to open everything all at once. So
Right.
it's just like a very organized studio, if you wanna call it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's actually a really good way to frame it, is that it's a studio versus just a harness for coding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when we talk about the word harness, right? Harness literally means that it is like, like a dog harness, right? Like a saddle for a horse.
Yeah.
It's an overlay on top of the engine, the AI. It's like the body of the car, and you drive the car, and when you drive the car, the engine is what powers it, but the harness is what controls, where it goes and things like that. And Kelly asked, so Chris said that when you're using Claude, it's best to create markdown files for context to reduce the effort that Claude has to do when performing a task. And why is it? And then Kelly asked, why is it eating less tokens? And the answer to that is actually context. So think about it this way: Claude, very explicitly stated in our initial chat, right? So if we go all the way to the top here, it said, getting started, talk to me like you would a sharp employee who has no context yet. This statement right here is exactly what the reason is. When you do what Chris said and you provide it with additional context. So, context being facts about what you're trying to do, goals, decisions you're making, all the different things, right? What you're doing is you're reducing the amount of tokens that it has to go out and find the information. You're being, just like Peter just said, you're
Being
being specific. Exactly.
Yeah, so think
What
about
kind
it when you hire a new employee, right? When you initially hire a new employee, they have absolutely no context about who you are, what you do, who you serve, or what your product is. And an employee, like, onboarding time usually takes longer because they still need to know what the business is. But once they have, oh, this session has ended.
what the hell? Oh my
What?
oh my god, fucking high level. All right, let me reboot it.
Yeah.
Ugh, come on. Why did it kill it? It's sending the data. Yeah, it's not us, it's high level.
Damn, we gotta find new.
Okay.
I'll.
Let me make sure we're on the right channel. All right, yeah,
I'll
people are
say,
joining. Yeah, go ahead and put it in the group.
yeah.
Sorry about that, everybody. High Level is having technical issues. It is not us. We will give everyone a second to join back in. But you know what? Go ahead and kind of talk about what you were saying in terms of context, Cersei, because I think that what you were leading to before
Yeah.
High Level so rudely disconnected us was really a valuable point.
Yeah. So just like, yeah, think about it as you when you're like an employee, like a fairly new employee, right? You're gonna spend more time understanding the business, the offer, who the company serve, and what your role and position is in that company. Like, what does it actually look like on a day-to-day basis? So just imagine, if you don't have your contacts set up in the right environment, whether it be in your terminal or your folders, or whether it be in chat or co-work, if you don't have the right context in place, it has to figure it out all every single time you call tokens. So it's being specific, it's giving it context on things to touch, not to touch, things to focus on. And for me, I like to plan phases. So which part of the phase are we at into this project? So instead of having it really just like kind of like look through the mess itself, it has step by step clarity that was built through context.
Yeah, absolutely. And the context is critical. So, like, what I did here is I asked it, what is the other related services? And I said to my company, but not just my company. I said to Osprey, and here's the URL. Like, if I had just said, I want you to go into an Excel spreadsheet of every lead generation, lead scraping, and visitor de-anonymization and other related services compared to my company, and I didn't specify Osprey or I didn't specify what my company was, it would have to look in the memory and see what that is. But what I did is I provided it in my prompt, or like Chris said, in a markdown file.
Yeah.
I provided it with context, and because I provided it with more context, it was able to reduce the amount of tokens that I'm giving. A lot of people do start out with really, light prompts, very basic, not a lot of information, and when they do that, they're really shortchanging themselves and not giving context. And that actually leads perfectly into what I wanted to talk about next. And that is skills. So, Cersei,
Mm.
what can you tell me about skills?
Kind of skills, in kind of like another analogy, is like, think of skills as set of instructions and an SOP. When you run a business, you want to have like a systematized version of fulfilling. For example, like you cannot, if you want to have a scalable business, you want to have the same process over and over again so that it's easier to fulfill. And kind of like the expectation is the same. You deliver the same quality of work and it's not as messy. So a skill file, just think of a skill file as an SOP for anything, or like a list of instructions. So anytime that you ask it to do something. For example, I love generating PDFs. I love it. But I have a specific style for it. For example, my color palette, my design, my theme as my agency. I have a kind of my agency color palette and PDF generation skill file. So it's like a guide. It's an SOP. So that anytime I generate the similar task, it does it the same way.
Right. Exactly. And that's really important. You just hit on exactly what I wanted to cover, which is repeatability. Repeatability is such a critical aspect of any sort of process. And again, process is a really important word there too. With a process, you absolutely have to have skills, right? So if you look at um, the skill that I'm invoking right now, and I'm actually pulling in a folder, which is my marketing asset. So I'm going to go ahead and close this over here, and you'll see here that I added a folder, and then I added a skill for canvas design. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and I'm going to authorize it to access that folder. And then what it's going to do is it's going to go in and make me a PDF version of that Excel spreadsheet that I can present to my co-founder and our team. And then that PDF is going to be what we use for the next pieces. So it's going to say it used web search, web fetch, invoke the XSLX skill or XLSX skill, what the skill has in it, and when you should invoke skills. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say all of the above, and I have brand details to share, and I'm going to say brand details are in the Legion marketing folder. And then what this is going to do is it's going to steer the conversation. And in steering the conversation, it's going to give you a full brand guide. It's going to give you basically everything. And so now it's going to go through and it's actually going to work on that PDF. And tell me, Cersei, like, what do you typically include in your PDFs?
For me, I usually include all the main topics there because I usually just have an overview, and also, like I like to be creative with the branding, color palette, the theme, and really all the context that I need to be in that PDF.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So it says, uh, there is a folder called products that has Osprey in it. And so what I'm doing is I'm guiding it, right? And I'm doing exactly what I would do on a computer. And I'm like, I would go to a folder, I'd pull up an image, I do that thing, and I'm just answering questions for it. So this is the easiest way to use Cowork, is just to kind of talk through. It's like it's an actual employee that can take actions. What would you say are your top active like Cowork tools that you use, Cersei? Like, so we talked about chat
Yeah.
and how you have like brainstorming and PDF generation and stuff like that. But what do you really use Cowork for?
Cowork I use because I like um, editing stuff, like overlays. So any, like, by the way, guys, any overlays that you see into like my actually generated in Cowork, and I ask it to create kind of like the scripts, and I want to be able to see it in my local device. So the main difference for Cowork is it can have access to your folders and kind of add things to your folders or add it to your like MCP. So if you're using the desktop, so I like to use overlays or any graphics for certain things, decks, and what else? Deep research as well, creating like Excel spreadsheets. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the spreadsheets component of the deep research is like, oh my god,
Hmm.
the goat of.
Yeah.
So, Kelly just asked, I was using Claude Code in the way you are showing. I thought Cowork was for recurring operations or tasks. It is both.
Yeah.
So you would probably want to use Claude Cowork more for the non-code related tasks. You're going to burn more tokens using Claude Code for non-code related tasks. Cowork is much better suited. It has a different compaction engine and a different context and memory engine than Claude Code does. Claude Code is really meant to interpret code. Whereas
Mhm.
Cowork is more like a functional employee, like an operations assistant. And I know Cersei has an AI operations company. Cersei, what do you use in your AI ops company for like in Claude Cowork? Like, how do you integrate that into someone's business typically?
I honestly create like um I don't usually use Cowork for
Oh, tell me
when
about
I
it.
do that. I actually create like, yeah, I'm using Claude for like I use multimodal gateway routing for specific tasks. So deploying kind of like the operations AI and having
Okay.
that connected to MCP, for example, their Notion database to or their own like any all these APIs, and I have it kind of like a gateway permission routing, wherein to this specific agent that is a sub agent of this is only in this department, and that's kind of like I create like kind of like my own AI agent harness that I deploy towards them. But usually all the automated stuff, all these things that each department needs to do, and this is talking for like businesses with multiple departments and employees, by the way. But if you're someone who's just using Cowork, you can absolutely do kind of all each department in Cowork. For example, if you want to do market research, Cowork. If you want to do kind of general admin task, for example, organizing a spreadsheet and enriching, which is like if you have leads and you want to have set of leads in your spreadsheet that you want to filter out and make sure that the data are organized and you want to enrich it, you can have Cowork search up this leads number and create personalization for you and update that spreadsheet. So all of these things can be automated in Cowork, but for my agency, it's more so deploying um, a cloud agent harness, and I use different models for that. So it's a really different topic.
Oh, totally fair. I was just curious, what like how you were integrating stuff. And you can see here now that it's taking some screenshots of the competitive landscape. It's building some different PDFs and things like that. I got some corrections to make to it, but that's pretty nice. I mean, compared to what I would do if I was designing it in like Adobe or something like that. I mean, my design skills are terrible, even in Canva. That's one of the things that I think is the biggest advantage to using AI and platforms like Cowork is that you're able to do things that, and again, it's an augmentation, right? So think of, Claude Cowork and Claude Chat and even Claude Code as like using like a super suit, it's an augmentation, right? So it's like you have a mechanical buddy that you're working with, and so it's presenting right now this PDF, and I got a couple things that I want to change, but this is a competitive landscape report of everything to do with my company, which I really think is super powerful. This is something that I'm going to present to my team and
Yeah.
show them, the different things that I want to do and how we can improve our product. And it created 9 pages for me, which is super impressive. So I'm actually going to tell it the logo on the pages doesn't render because it is inverted. And I want you to also provide more data and better insights than just bulleted points and tables. Uh, Make this a high value asset for my team. And so what I'm doing is I'm steering the conversation and I'm giving it feedback. And so Kim said I was using this way too and getting so frustrated. I think, when it comes to AI and getting frustrated, one of the important things that you have to remember is that AI is a employee without context. And
Yeah.
usually the reason why people get frustrated with AI is not because the AI did anything wrong. It's actually the fact that they're not giving the AI enough information, or they're not being specific enough, or really helping the AI to understand what they're doing, and it just starts predicting random stuff. And that's like the worst thing for AI is random hallucinations.
Yeah, and I feel like honestly, it's like it's kind of like introduction on having your own employee, you know? So like when you set up a new employee, you onboard someone, you need to set them up with the right environment. You have to give them the right tools and access, the right context and the right skills, equip them with the right SOP so that anytime certain things happen, or let's say you don't like certain things, you can update its memory, you can update the
Yep.
context, you can update the skills so it doesn't do that again. The same way how you're correcting any employees because you didn't see it beforehand until you're there in that process. It's a matter of iteration, correction, and just like making sure that it's predictable if you're doing kind of like the repetitive work. So making sure that memory or context is updated all the time. It does that for you either way, but it does get frustrating when it doesn't have context or it doesn't have the right skills or environment for it.
Yeah, I mean that's and like Kim was saying, it can be very frustrating. And but you got to remember, guys, like just like Cersei was saying, and she is absolutely spot on. Like I could not have said it better myself. It is frustrating because uh, you're not giving it enough information, and really, like you have to treat it like somebody who's brand new but super smart. Like you have to guide it. And I always use this example: drop a 1 in the chat if you have kids, and then this will make a lot more sense when I explain it. Drop a 1 in the chat if you have kids. All right, we got a couple people with kids so far. At least one person with kids, 2 people with kids. All right, there we go. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we got some people with kids. So, when you tell your son or daughter at a young age to go clean their room, right? And yeah, I know Kelly has grandkids, right? So when you tell your son, daughter, or grandkids to go clean their room,
Yeah.
or you're training a dog, even like telling a dog to sit, right? Because my dog just came up because she just woke up, and if I told her to sit, and this was before she was trained, or you told a kid to go clean their room before you actually explained what cleaning their room is, a kid, or a dog, anyone that you're training understands kind of at a high concept level what the words clean and room mean, right? But what they don't understand is the specifics of what cleaning a room entails. So, Cersei, like when you clean your room, I don't know if you actually have a clean room or if you like messy, but like when you clean your room, if you do, what do you typically do as part of cleaning your room?
I fix the bed, make sure that there's nothing in my table, throw any trash out, sweep, and
Yeah,
just making
exactly.
sure that everything's organized.
And when you say everything's organized, like what do you do when you organize stuff? Like what areas do you organize in your room?
First is like the spread of the covers and the pillows, because I am a have like when I sleep, I have multiple pillows and I just like throw them when I'm sleeping in the floor. And I wake up with like a lot of pillows in the floor. And then when it comes to like me brainstorming and having kind of like a really good flow state of work, I would have papers everywhere. And I also have water bottles, like three of them, probably in my table. So what I would do is I would make sure that first of all, I also have a lot of pens and notebooks and books. So I would do is I would organize, put my pen right where it's at, which is like under like my drawer of my table, and then I would organize my books in the shelf, and then I would throw out any excess paper that I used. I would make sure that the pillows are properly set in the bed, not in the floor, and the duvet or um, and the blankets are well like laid out and not crunched.
Yeah, exactly. And you just went on for at least like, dang, probably like 4 minutes about all the different things you do when you organize it, right?
Yeah,
And when you were a baby or a kid and you first like went to clean your room, did you know all that stuff?
hell no.
Exactly.
When they say clean my room, I would just kind of just like hide everything and just like really hide everything in the closet. That's it.
Oh, I'm the same way. I still do that. Like my my life partner gets on me all the time. She's like, "Why do you just put all your dirty clothes in the bottom of the closet?" And I'm like, "Because it works and you clean it." But no, I mean seriously, like when you're talking to AI, right? You got to think like it's a child, but it's a highly highly intelligent child. And so if you don't give it context and explicit instructions, it has no idea what you're supposed to be doing. So Cersei just talked about all the different things that she does when she organizes her room. She talked about, how she cleans up her covers. She talked about, taking the trash out, all those different things. Well, she didn't know to do that when she was a kid. So someone said, clean your room. And technically speaking, cleaning your room it's clean if everything's in the closet, right? But that's not the proper way to clean your room. That's one potential for how you clean your room, but it's not the right way to clean your room. So exactly the same thing applies to AI. When you're talking to it, whether it's building an application to building PDF like I'm building, or even just chatting with it and brainstorming, the more information you give it, the more context, like Chris said, in markdown files and prompting and things like that, the better off you're going to be when the AI actually responds. I can't tell you how frustrating it is to burn tokens when
Mhm.
AI is not doing its job, and it's squarely my fault. It's never the AI's fault, and this is something people have to remember. Like there, and I was talking earlier about how Codex, isn't that great compared to Claude, and I still stand by that. But one of the
Yeah.
reasons why it's not that great is because Codex requires a ton more context than Claude does. Whereas Claude, it's like I can tell it smaller tasks or smaller things, and it will automatically know what it's supposed to do because it has that memory system and everything else. So here's the completed PDF that I wanted it to do to provide. And the last thing I'm going to do is just say that there's a blank page. So there is
Yeah.
a blank
And
page.
spacing. Yeah.
Fix that. And so you give it feedback, you give it specific actionable tasks, and you don't give it broad tasks. Like all I said was there's a blank page, fix that. it doesn't need. I probably should have said there's a blank page on X, because right now it's burning tokens looking for that blank page. This is a perfect example of not enough context when you're working with it. Like, I could simply have scrolled up and found the page number and said page 5 of 12 is blank, remove it. That's it.
Yeah. And I think the best way to do it, because for me, is dictation. What I would do is I would literally rather burn tokens with brain dumping text than it burning tokens on itself on a constant loop, just trying to figure out what I say. So what I do is I have a dictation app called Whisperflow, or you can use the dictation itself to like your local devices. And what I would do is anything that it generates, whether it be a PDF, I would go through pages by pages, having patience. By the way, it's like really teaching how to do the work for, especially for like first time, really teaching it how to nail it. And I would go through pages saying like, okay, for page one, I didn't. There's like an overlapping into the section when it comes to this word and this word. And what I noticed is that it's too compact per page. So maybe add more pages and add more spacing, and then you're like, oh, this next page is just completely blank, and there was a cutoff. So it's just like I would go into details, and after that, I would go make sure to save into that skill to make sure that you don't repeat the, like, kind of list out all the errors that you saw, and update the skills, so that way I would have the same, I wouldn't have the same errors occurring for that skill set. But yeah, Mario, I don't know if you are talking right now, but you
Ah,
are
crap.
muted.
I was on mute.
Yeah.
So this is my finalized PDF, and I now have something to present to my team that I can give them for easy wins and gap analysis and everything else. That took me a total for 11 pages, took me a total of maybe 5 minutes and 10 minutes at most. Imagine how long it would take to do this without AI. Like, a lot of you, that are newer to AI, remember the days of doing this manually. Like, I wish back when I was in corporate America, um, that I had AI at a more like what it is now, because man, would I have been so much more efficient. So Kelly said, "How do I create a skill once I know what I want?" So what I would do, Kelly, is very easily I would go and say skill, and it has a skill creator. I'm actually going to make a queen bee stinger though. This is one of my skills in the vibe coding tool. So you can either use the skill creator, or you can actually use the queen bee stinger. But what I would do is now make a skill for building PDFs and doing extensive competitive research. Uh, Competitive research for this type of XLSX and PDF for building and doing. There we go. Extensive. So all I'm doing is I just invoke the skill to make the skill. So it's
Yeah.
either skill creator or Queen Bee Stinger, and then I just hit enter. Now, Queen Bee Stinger has a little bit more of an advanced skill building workflow than the skill creator does, which is why I recommend it. It's totally free. It's on our Vibe Coding Tools repo, which is in the community. So just download that repo and install that skill, and you're off to the races. But what it's going to do now is it's actually going to conduct a massive amount of research using Exa and Firecrawl, and then it's going to build out those skill files and everything else for me. It's super, super easy. What are your like top like when you said you do a lot of design work and things like that, are there any like repositories that you follow that have really good skills?
Yeah, so I recently shared that in the community, so you guys can check out that Notion page where I have kind of all the skills that I usually go to. But it's like it's UI and UX design repo. There's also there's a lot of animation repos out there that I love doing with websites. There's also there's quite a few that I shared, but yeah.
Yeah. So Kim asked, how do you install it correctly after you download it? Literally, just tell Claude to install it. One of the things that most people sleep on, and I think that most people get confused, is they underestimate the capability of what Claude and Codex and ChatGPT and Kimi and all these different AI engines can do. It is generally as simple as one of two things. The first one is telling it to do it, and it will easily tell you, I can't do that. It could also say, cool, not a problem. But the really cool part is that if it can't do it, and all your next question is, and typically it does this anyways, is, okay, how do I do it manually? Like, it's that easy. You don't even have to, like, a lot of people, and this, a lot of people, don't kind of think for themselves when it comes to stuff like this, to be honest. And I'm trying to say that tactfully, but it's not a problem. It's like, you're so used to having to ask other people for help, and you're so unfamiliar with AI and its capabilities that you don't really understand what its core capacities are yet. So the easiest way to do it is to treat the AI like it's that person you were going to ask, like it's that
Yeah.
phone a friend when it's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something like that. You literally just ask the AI, how do I do this? And the AI will absolutely explain it to you step by step. And you can do what Kelly does and
Yeah.
say, explain it to me like a first grader or an eighth grader. And it will do exactly that. Like, it'll Barney step it for you, and it even give you pictures.
Yeah. Or even like generate you mind maps of how to do that. Like majority of my learning comes from just like interactive learning, which is like what I love using AI for. When I just initially started, I love using integrated learning with any AI. Before it was just like, okay, teach me this, how do I do this, it's just like, how do I connect this to this, and what are the things that like really setting that up, just like having that, oh yeah, I don't know how to do this, do this. Just like giving it
Exactly.
the task itself. And if it
Yeah.
can't, for some reason it can't. Um, Usually it can, but whatever. Sometimes it can't. So you just like ask, okay, how do I do it? And it just give you a list of instructions, but sometimes the instructions are outdated, and you're just gonna be really patient with it, saying like, hey, this step doesn't work. um, and this is like, you literally screenshot a page, drop it down, and be like, what do I add here? Like I always do that when any integrations that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, and that's the cool part is that, like Cersei said, and I think this is the biggest value that you guys will take away today. And the biggest, because we're about to wrap up, I have another meeting I got to run to, but like the biggest value that you're going to take away today is when you're using Claude, and we're going to cover Claude Code next week because that's a session in and of itself. But um, when you're using Claude or GPT or any of these other platforms, the most important thing that you're going to take away today is ask it. Don't ask a friend yet. Ask Claude first. Do the learning on demand, the integrated learning environment that Cersei was talking about with Claude. That is the single most powerful asset you have in your arsenal, is the ability to simply ask it a question. And don't be afraid of it. It's not going to be mean to you. Like, I'll be mean to you. I will absolutely be mean to you. Like, if you ask me a dumb question or a question that I consider like you could have asked Claude for this answer, I will 100%. No, no, Kim, you're fine. You guys can ask me all the questions you want. I'm just being facetious. But what I'm saying is, like, if I know that you could have asked Claude, generally what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a prompt back, and tell you to ask Claude, and tell you to make sure that you are, or I'll send you a Google this link, one of the two. Um, and that's kind of the most important thing, is that integrated learning environment. Like, I will tell you, like, I've been doing research on I'm not a meanie. Come on. You guys know that. I answer all your questions. That's so rude. I have no problem answering you guys' questions. I never consider a question dumb. I was just making a joke. But, it's so important. Like, I was learning about tracing financial information for this project that I'm working on, and how the banking system actually works internationally, like with Swift codes and wire instructions and international transfers and things like that. And I know nothing about the banking industry. I am not a banker or an accountant. I stay away. I have an account that I pay, and I stay away from finances.
Yeah.
All I know is how much is in my account and can I buy a coffee. That's
Yeah.
about it. But what I was able to do is actually yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So yeah.
Oh no, you're fine. I was gonna say I can consume the information so fast, so fast. And Peter, he said my questions are kind of not that smart though, dude. like you can absolutely make your questions more intelligent or more focused simply by asking Claude. Like, you're not a dumb dude. Like, I've known you, Peter, for going on like 20 years at this point, and you are a very, very intelligent man. You're a little bit afraid of the AI, and you're a little bit kind of gun shy about asking it questions. But I think if you just sit down with any AI and you simply say, "Hey, I have this question. Can you help me understand?" and just let it go from there. Um, that is going to change your life. Like, I learn at a pace. I think Cersei's probably the only other person in the world that I know that learns as fast as I do from consuming information um, through like AI and stuff like that. But uh, even people that are new to AI, like big shout out to Kelly Bass. She is an absolutely outstanding student of ours. She probably like 3-4 months ago, Kelly, came to me and said, "I have no idea how to use AI." And literally, guys, like when I say she had no idea how to use AI, I was impressed that she knew how to Google something. And she's a phenomenal salesperson, a great tactician, a great ops person, builds the most beautiful PDFs and Word documents manually. And so I told her, like, "Hey, download this software and start asking it questions." And no joke, like three months later, she built a full app by herself. Zero help from me, zero questions in the group. And
Yeah,
the Peter question, when I consume so much information, I tend to blurt it out. Yeah, dude, that's fine. Blurt it out to Claude. Like,
yeah.
consume all that information and then talk to it like it's a friend of yours. My therapist is Claude. My accountant is
No,
Claude.
same,
Like, my
same.
coder is Claude.
My mentor
Every
is Claude.
Yeah, 100%. Like, everything that I do,
My
like
therapist
instructions on
is Claude.
cooking, Claude. Like, everything I
Exactly.
do, you have to absolutely just like think of it like it is the nicest, uh, easiest going. All it wants to, it's like a dog but human. Like, that is
Imagine
a super smart dog but human.
the most intelligent and most patient thing in this entire world is your AI. You shouldn't be intimidated by it. It's not human.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
good thing about it. You won't hurt or offend the AI. You might get hurt and offended by AI, but it's a really good criticism sometimes. There was a time where I asked it to like analyze my transcripts and my content, or just like how I talk to it in general. It slapped me in the face of how much I just go off topic sometimes and then come back. But it's just that. Like literally that's the worst thing that it can do to you or your knowledge. But that's how I expand a lot of things. I just ask questions, and if I don't know much, I ask it more. Then make it like, there's you can make it ask it to have it explain an analogy in third grade level, sixth grade level, and 11th grade level, and you can see kind of like the progressions of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Cersei made a good point, and I'll end our session with this. When you've been using Claude for a long time, and I've been using Claude literally since the day it came out. I've been using AI for the better part of 20 years, from back when I was in the military, doing predictions and things like that, and building chat bots before AI was popular. So here we go. I told it to roast me. I don't live in Austin. That's wrong. But I call myself a self-taught AI practitioner, which is a good way of saying I have no school. Um, and what I've done, respect, you learn precision measurement engineering in the military, which means the government spent thousands of dollars teaching you to measure things so you can very carefully and now use that skill to argue with strangers on Facebook about whether AI gurus are frauds. Your drill instructors would be so proud. Speaking of Facebook, you write posts explaining LLM architecture to people who just wanted to see pictures of their grandkids. Like, this is the funniest thing that it does. Um, so it says you have MCPs connected to everything. Click up high level Chrome Dev Tools, your file system, probably your toaster. You didn't automate your business. You automated the ability to be distracted at an industrial scale. That's so true. Uh, and that is hilarious. I'm gonna make
Dude,
some corrections to this and absolutely post it because this is freaking a riot.
you need to
But
post
anyways, guys, yeah, I'm going to. I'm actually absolutely gonna post this. I am gonna hop off here. I appreciate everyone who attended. Cersei, any kind of closing thoughts or words?
Yeah, so I do prepare some kind of a beginner talk on just like an overview of the differences for cowork Claude chat and setting up skills and what those are. And I'll be posting that into our member group. So I'll send that deck over, and the recording is going to be there as well, right?
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, that's all. And for next week, we're going to be talking about Claude Code, what an IDE is actually, like really going too deep into that. But this is kind of like your mini boot camp into AI, Claude.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I hope that you learned something today, and thank you to my amazing co-host, Miss Cersei Florano. We will be back next Wednesday. Awesome.